We're live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fraternal Fanatics podcast, featuring the greatest intro music of all time, courtesy of the White Lotus. Thank you, Mike White.
Yeah, gotta love that throat singing or whatever you call that.
The, like, yodel.
Yodel. It is kind of a yodel, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm picturing the Ricola guy on top of the mountain with his
Ricola. Yeah, I guess fucking man.
But yeah, White Lotus. This is the first show I've seen or project I've seen directed by Mike White.
Mm-hmm.
And originally coming to the revelation that Mike White was Ned Schneebly in School of Rock had me rolling at first.
This is Ned Schneebly. Yeah, no, that is a hilarious revelation, like you said. Yeah, it's a funny because you didn't really see him in anything after School of Rock.
Honestly,
like, I don't
all
remember.
I knew him from. That's the only thing I associated Mike White with before seeing White
I didn't
Lotus.
even know his name was Mike White. I just knew him from School of Rock. Yeah, White Lotus season 1.
Yeah, this is where it all began, in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful shooting location, for sure, for the first season. Like, we're headed to paradise here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good way to start the show, like framing the context of the show as like this is like rich people dealing with rich people problems. Like, this is not like a grounded real world thing. This is like, well, maybe it is more grounded in real world, but this is like looking at the 1%.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty
general
VIP
public
resort, right? Like, you have to be an important, influential person
or massively wealthy.
Yeah, but assuming that if you're massively wealthy, you're probably either
those are not always mutually exclusive. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's enjoyable to watch because of that. I think because it's like feels a little more real or something.
Mm-hmm.
Than some scripted shows that we've seen. I'm trying to think of an example, but more of like a network like How I Met Your Mother or something, where it's like very like these one-liners and punchlines that are set up, and like it feels scripted.
Yeah, it's not an actual, this isn't how people have conversations.
Yeah. Granted, How I Met Your Mother does do a good job of just like making it feel a little more natural too, but
I know what you mean, though. Yeah, like it is I feel like it is a big sitcom trope that like characters just don't speak in sentences that people do or react in the way people do normally, because they have to serve the larger story. Like there is a benefit to that, or a requirement to that. But yeah, I agree with you. This show is much more like, yeah, this is how humans actually react to, good news or bad news or something devastating. Or
maybe it helps because that's the plot. It's just like watching these people like react to their situations and surroundings, and there's no overarching kind of, it's just that, right? Like, we're just peering into this window of these rich, entitled white people on vacation who are getting doted on and expecting, these lavish dinners and entertainment spectacles, and nothing to go right, everything to be perfect, and you know what I mean? It's seeing how they deal with that and deal with each other.
We open with this huge overarching mystery of this coffin. We don't technically know it's a coffin, I suppose, but it is marked as human remains.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We know it's a dead body.
But that leads to this overarching mystery heading into, the introduction of these characters at the resort. And, we get that time skipping back to, so it starts off with, in the back of your head, one of these characters, when we have that opening shot on the boat, one of these characters is going to be dead by the end of the season.
Yeah. And we, I guess, are led to believe that Shane has some kind of personal connection to it specifically, because, he's the one we open with, and he seems a little, I don't know if distress is the right word to put it, but sad and like angsty whenever the couple is asking him questions about his wife who doesn't seem to be there. So we have to either put together the piece that she left him or she's the dead body.
Up. Yeah.
But I think he's like not distressed enough for that to be the case. So it's like also we can kind of rule that out. But you know, he's pining over, he's looking out the window at this dead body being wheeled out of the plane. So there is some personal connection to it. And as we see what ends up happening, he is implicated in that dead body too, right? But I do like that from a storytelling perspective, like sort of opening with that mystery early on and then jumping back a week. So that's like lying in our head, sort of like what character is going to meet their demise here.
Yeah, that coffin every episode becomes more and more of like a red herring. That like you don't really see how this is going to fit in, or you don't really see how this could work itself out. And then as we get towards the end of the season and, you know, we see the major rift between Rachel and Shane, you're like, okay, maybe I do know where this is going. But you're still like, you don't, as much as Shane's a piece of shit, you wouldn't expect him to murder his wife. But, you know, it becomes more and more plausible right up until the end, and we see the revelation of it being Armand. And that red herring becomes even more of a red herring almost.
Yeah, they do. Mike White does a good job at like directing our attention to other people, I guess, throughout. I thought similarly too about Kai, like him being wrapped up in this whole situation. I just thought that situation could have ended worse for him, I guess. And he could have been meeting his maker because of some bad decisions made and some influence by Paula. But yeah, I know. I thought the majority of the way through that it was going to be something to do with Shane and Rachel. Yeah, Mike White definitely did a good job at keeping you guessing as the season went along. But there were some pretty consistent, like, concrete themes that were apparent that he used throughout the season one, I guess, introducing us to these characters. Obviously, as we touched on, like, the money and entitlement and privilege is seeping its way through the resort in all cases, I guess. The Mossbackers, the Pattons, and Tanya there. But let's break that down a bit, because it kind of like is represented in slightly different ways depending on the dynamic, right? Like with the Mossbackers, it's because there's two levels to it. There's like the parents, and then there's the kids. So what are your thoughts on like how that changes? Nicole and Mark, their view of their own wealth and entitlement and privilege versus their kids' view.
You know, Nicole, as she mentions, is very proud of her wealth and what she's built, and as she should be. This is like her. She's done this. She built this for herself, whatever. She's CEO or something of some company. It doesn't really matter, but a high-ranking position at a company that she owns or manages, whatever.
Yeah, built from the ground up. Kind of thing.
And rightfully, she should be proud of that. But yeah, you see her daughter shitting on this, the one who actually is privileged and entitled, shitting on what seems like their own lifestyle, and like she's implicit in this. She's going on these trips and living this lavish life.
It's pretty easy to shit in a gold toilet.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. It is interesting, and I'm glad that later on in the season Nicole calls her out on that, and you know, expresses that this is not entitlement. This is like causation and reward. She worked for this. She was rewarded for this, and this is where she's at now.
Yeah. She's entitled to feel some pride and stuff in where she's at, but whereas her daughter is, you know, has been handed this stuff on a silver platter. And she's being a hypocrite now, calling her mom like a neocon and chastising her beliefs and mentality, I guess.
Yeah.
Saying that she's the reason that society is failing, and meanwhile she's just, sucking her dry of everything she's got until she's got to face the real world, I guess.
Yeah, which could be never, depending on how much money they have.
True. She could just be spouting these beliefs of how I can change the world, but she never actually does anything about it. That's the sense I get.
Just lives off a trust fund for her whole life.
Yeah, she's frustrating. Yeah, I mean the two of them are insufferable at points. Her and Paula. Yeah. Paula's hilarious in a way though, just with her I'm fructose absorbent or something. Just her constant conditions that aren't real or are made up, and she just complains about stuff, and Olivia defends her. And but yeah, they strike me early on as very shallow, judgmental, holier than thou type of people.
Which is true. I think that's the greatest thing about this show. Your first impression of pretty much any character is exactly what they are. The archetype transcends through, not just through season 1, I guess, but season 2, and I haven't seen season 3 yet, but I'm sure the archetype of the character is written all over the character's face.
I would say that's true for the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, maybe Quinn doesn't fit that mold quite as much, because we kind of pick up with him as being addicted to screens, as a lot of people are these days.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get away from him, and then he kind of sees the beauty in nature and getting away from all that crap.
Technology, and no, that's
so
a good
it's
point.
A bit of it's not in line necessarily with what we see him as at first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a good point.
But I'm not sure
he is the only exception to that rule, though.
Exactly. I'm not sure I can think of anyone else that doesn't.
Because Tanya, you think for the whole season, you think Tanya's gonna be that. She's gonna break that mold and be supportive of Belinda and her passion, and she seems like this entitled, middle-aged rich woman, but
she's definitely a self-absorbed person dealing with some trauma with her past and her mother and stuff. But she seems benevolent enough and has genuine intentions at first, anyways.
And then come to find out that she's exactly what you expected, just a flaky, making promises that she'll never keep. And
it's a shame. You're hoping that she'll make the right decision. But and you could say that about other characters too. You're hoping that they do something differently than they do, that they act out of character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. You're hoping that they do the sitcom thing and act in a way or speak in a way that serves a story that they're driving to. But it's even more satisfying when you don't. As ironic as it sounds, more satisfying when you don't get that and you just see these people succumb to the absolute worst of what you expect.
Yeah, there's no sugarcoating.
No.
In this.
No.
Well, what about those themes of money and privilege and entitlement, like you were saying with Tanya? What is that? How does that represent a character flaw for Tanya? Just in terms of, I guess, the Belinda stuff. Has she made these kind of promises all her life to people, and she's continuing to?
Yeah, I'm sure that Belinda is just another notch on Tanya's belt of people she manipulated and took advantage of in her time of need.
She doesn't offer much to the other person. It's very one-sided, right? But you feel you feel bad for her because she's so emotionally distraught. So you're Belinda, you can reason with her wanting to kind of lend a hand and accommodate and make her feel a little more at peace in this time of need. But
yeah, that's the thing. I like feel for Belinda. Like I can understand that, and I can put myself in those shoes. But Tanya, I just pity. You know what I mean? Like on kind of the other side of the spectrum, that like well, maybe that's the wrong way to put it. But like I have no.
You pity her because she's like has all this shit and she's still like.
I pity her because she's doing this to herself, I guess. I feel for Belinda because somebody else got her hopes up and just brought the tower crashing down.
But do you think Belinda was wrong to have trusted like this rich?
Well, that's the thing.
Woman,
kind of. But like I said, the whole season, I'm hoping for Tanya to make the right decision, and like I'm believing that by the end of the season, she'll do the right thing, and then she doesn't. So in a sense, I do feel like I'm in Belinda's shoes, and maybe that's why I feel more for Belinda in like the first person as aside from like pitying Tanya in the third person.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I do agree with you. Maybe pity is better than sympathy because, like, I'm not really sure. I was kind of confused why we, like, care for Tanya because immediately she's, like, demanding, she desperately needs a massage as soon as she, like, steps foot on the island after the boat. And Belinda's like, I'm booked up. Yeah. Like, you're getting here late afternoon. Like, you're demanding stuff. Like, the scheduling. And she does, like, accommodate, not with a massage,
because Belinda's
with, like,
the best.
Chant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know why we even feel some sense of connection to Tanya necessarily, because the first thing she does is, like, give us a reason to kind of dislike her in a way.
Yeah.
But I think it is that, like, her whole emotional trauma with the reason for her being there with her mother's ashes and stuff. Like, it's, there's an inherent sense of, like, someone grieving with the death of their mother. Anybody can, like, understand why you could be sympathetic to that. And, like, despite any character flaws in this wealth and privilege and entitlement she may have, we still, like, understand that that's emotionally impactful for her.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's that sense weaseling its way into your brain too, kind of affecting your view of Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
And affecting Belinda's by extension, I guess, too, right? Like, maybe she's seeing Tanya framed in the same way.
Yeah. I'm sure she is, yeah. I think their whole dynamic, their whole story together, you're supposed to feel like Belinda, that, like, you're blindly trusting this woman because, well, for no real reason, but because she seems to trust you. Yeah. And it all just comes crashing down.
Yeah, Belinda's too nice for her own good.
She is. And it's just, it's such a shame, because Belinda not having dealt with Tanya for the week or whatever, however long they were there, like, her conversation at the end of the season with Rachel could have gone so much differently if she wasn't just so sick of these entitled white rich people problems.
Yeah, and getting the rug pulled out from under her by Tanya.
Yeah, because by the time she talks to Rachel, she's like, I'm fucking done with it. Like, I got way more important problems than you do, like, that actually affect her ability to live and survive, like, a comfortable life. And
yeah, I'm not a fucking marriage counselor. I'm not gonna, like, I don't have time for your shit.
Yeah. Yeah, this is,
if you want another Tanya. Like, you want something out of me.
If you want to hit the spa, let me know. But that's my fucking job here. Like, and yeah, if not for Tanya, I know she wouldn't have been as short with Rachel as she was when.
Yeah, she probably could have given her some more valuable advice that might have set her on a different path than we see her go on in the end.
Mm-hmm.
In consolation, Belinda still did get some cash out of Tanya, but, like, a meager amount compared to what could have been if they were like truly investing in this business with Belinda. It's just sort of like sorry to get your hopes up type of money.
Yeah, sorry I took your time up for a week. Here's a little bit of cash.
Yeah. It's just a big tip, basically, on Tanya's part.
Pretty much, yeah. Which is probably not like an abnormal thing for her to do. Like, it makes it feel so much less meaningful when it's like, she probably did that with What's-Her-Face in Italy, too, in season 2.
Yeah, attached to someone else and sink her claws in, get what she needs emotionally from them, and then, cut and run.
Pretty much, yeah.
But she has the money to look like less of an asshole because she's like, yeah, well, I'll at least give you something to.
I think she has the money to feel
the
like
wheels.
less of an asshole.
Yeah,
she looks as asshole-like as she should.
Yeah, it's selfish, I guess.
Yeah.
To make her feel good or better about the encounter as if she didn't just leave Belinda like in the dust.
Oh, I didn't leave you high and dry. I left you with $10,000 or $5,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but I'm still.
I can't fund a
$100,000
business or start a business with that, yeah. There's also the angle, I guess, of the wealth and privilege and entitlement that we get from the Pattons being kind of like the final piece of the White Lotus Season 1 puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
How does that change or how does that shift with Shane and Rachel and I guess like Shane's mom and like as we find out more about Shane's family and their whole mentality of the world, I guess.
What do you mean? How's what shift?
Well, are they more like I was thinking that the Pattons, I got like a more disgust for them as like
right
in terms of their view of wealth and entitlement and how they wield that. To me, theirs was like the worst. Like the Mossbackers, yeah, like you were saying, Nicole, like built a company from the ground up. She was like CEO or some high-ranking
she's
individual.
reaping the rewards of her hard work. And she's bringing her family along with her, which as anybody would want to do.
Yeah. And then Tanya is like, I don't know, we probably from money or like, anyways, she's...
Yeah, she seems like a bit of a Nepo baby or something like that.
I would assume like her mother maybe was like a influential person, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Hers is more the wealth and entitlement and that being a flaw for her is, like we said, represented a little differently with her relationship with Belinda. But I think it's just so much more overt and like, why shouldn't we bathe in our riches when it comes to the Pattons?
Yeah, theirs does feel like genuine entitlement. Yeah, like especially Shane feels like he like the pineapple sweet thing throughout the whole season. Like feels like he belongs in that pineapple sweet for no fucking reason. I mean, well, I guess for a reason. It is the room they booked, but yeah, like he can't get past that for even a second.
Yeah, any like thing that's been taken from him that he feels like he's deserving of.
Yeah.
It just, he can't get past that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just like, his mom's conversation about being like a trophy wife and stuff and how she's completely okay with that and like it's just
she's talking about that as if it's a positive. Like, so why wouldn't you want to be a trophy wife?
Yeah.
Of course I wouldn't. Of course she wouldn't want to be a trophy wife. Why would anybody?
And talking about how like why would you work in Rachel's position, like why with a rich husband that can make all the money you need, like why would you work?
Why would you have passions and things you care about? What the fuck's the point of that?
Yeah. So that one was the most, to me that dynamic was the most like unforgivable in terms of like the theme of rich privilege and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They were really like, could not be saved.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're just... Yeah, they're just terrible people.
Yeah.
Straight up. Shane and his mom, more specifically. I don't mean Rachel. Rachel seems like a good person that just got caught up in the wrong situation.
Yeah, but I feel like she's like enticed enough by it that she's stuck around. Like the writing had to be a bit on the wall pre-marriage and stuff. Like, did she just have the wool over her eyes the whole time?
It
doesn't really.
It was like super quick, right? Like they'd only been dating for a couple months or something like that before.
Yeah, but there's no way that Shane wasn't like
an entitled piece of shit the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that had to have been apparent at some point. But maybe it was just, more of a thing that she was like happy to dismiss. You tell yourself that this is where your life is going for a bit and you're just kind of committed to that, and then you lose sense of like what you're actually
what?
Yeah. So I think it all just came crashing down once like he really started to show how much of a petty asshole he was with, like you were saying, the pineapple suite and just his relationship with Armand, I guess.
Yeah, that's something that just his interactions with Armand are just the most despicable human behavior there is. I'm obviously exaggerating because there's more heinous things, but like just those, I hate those kind of people, especially in an interaction with like a person in the service industry or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody who they know has to keep the smile on their face and give you exactly what you want no matter what you ask. And whatever.
He's aware of that too.
He knows right? Armand has to play nice.
He's pushing those buttons.
Yeah. And what I appreciate even more than that is how Armand plays nice with the, let me get you a nice candlelit dinner on a boat at sunset while Tanya's reeling her mother's loss.
Having like a crisis on the boat. Saying some really like dark shit about her mother too.
Oh god.
No, yeah, I love that too. It's almost like, it's satisfying because it's these like slight bits of, not like revenge, I guess, but just like sticking it to Shane a little bit, that like piece of shit. Not
it's
what he wants.
The petty revenge.
Yeah.
/petty revenge.
Exactly. So satisfying.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's persistent though. Armand just can't shake him.
Both, yeah. Armand is persistent too to ruin this guy's fucking honeymoon.
Yeah, at a certain point,
so
I
much
guess
so that he
he's,
dies
takes
for
a
it.
personal vendetta. So, yeah,
he literally dies to ruin Shane's honeymoon.
In a way, yeah. Yeah, I think Shane to him is representative of like all like the piece of shit. He's just the icing on top of the cake, right? Like,
yeah, he's the embodiment of the fragile ego and all those vices that come with it. Just yeah,
he's the type of guy that he's warning Lonnie, the trainee, about on like the first day, right?
Exactly.
Got to treat these people like children, just give them what they want.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, from what we see, that is his recommendations there immediately are, if you had followed that advice throughout the entire season, you'd be golden.
Yeah, it's funny, how he brings that up the first episode and he immediately doesn't take his...
Well, he doesn't, right? Like, he picks his battles.
But that's the thing, he shouldn't be battling at all.
This is a personal... Like, everybody else he's great with, for the most part. I mean, obviously he steals the bag of drugs, and that's not... And then lies about it, it's not the best thing in the world. But generally, with everybody else, like, he's, as you would expect him to treat any other guest, like, very cordial and pretty accommodating.
But like dead behind the eyes while doing it, only doing it out of like necessity and like...
Yeah, but of course, but that's his job. Like, of course, it's out of necessity. That is what he's there to do. But with Shane, it's like, this is a personal. Like, I'm at war with this guy.
But him deciding to take that step and being like, I'm gonna fucking take this guy down, is like rejecting your own advice. Like, keep that out of it. You're going down a slippery slope whenever you decide, okay, I'm gonna make this guy's vacation. It's my personal mission to make this guy's vacation like as
nightmare,
shitty as possible. Yeah. So yeah, of course that's gonna be his own undoing. Like, he knows that, I guess, based on his own words to Lonnie.
Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's worth it. It's exactly why we love that's exactly why the petty revenge is so satisfying. Is as shitty as it is, sometimes it's just worth it.
It was pretty shitty. I will say that. A shitty
Nicely
revenge.
done. Nicely done. Well, the kind of battle war disagreement between Shane and Armand is it's an interesting thing to put beside the relationship with Olivia and Paula, just because Shane and Armand is a much more direct, antagonistic relationship. The two don't like each other. They both mutually know that the other person doesn't like them.
It's very overt.
Yeah. And it's very direct versus Olivia and Paula all being built around subtext and, backstabbing. And
yeah, we don't necessarily truly know the nature of their prior relationship. Like, yeah, they're coming as friends here. Olivia's bringing her friend Paula on vacation with her family. But there is a couple lines, right, to say that there's like some distrust between them, and there's been some history of Olivia kind of encroaching on her romantic relationships and stuff. And just the way they are, like we were talking about them being like so judgmental and sneaky and underhanded, and it's no surprise that they're like that way with each other too. Like, this is kind of maybe not the realest friendship around, that's based on some major distrust. But I think there's also like some feelings of friendship and stuff too, or maybe even more from Olivia's side. I'm not sure like if she's invested romantically in Paula too, and that's why she's like so personally invested in taking her on vacation. And then like when things start going awry with Kai, no rhyme intended, then she's like feels a bit personally betrayed by that or something.
Yeah. I feel like I did pick up on that as well, that there was more than friendship looming from Olivia's side. And I don't know, because they don't explore that at all. I don't know if that was the intention, or if that's just something that I was reading into, and maybe that was like an intentional red herring that you were supposed to read into that, but for it to go nowhere. But yeah, it left not necessarily something missing, but yeah, it just leaves me a little curious, I guess, maybe is the best way to put it. Which is kind of a shitty. It sucks to be curious with an anthology, just because you're never like, you're always gonna be curious. You can theory craft and come up with as much headcanon as you want, but doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated relationship between them too, I guess. I'm not exactly sure where it leaves off, like whether there's still sense of distrust there. Because do you think that Olivia, I mean, she definitely suspected, it was pretty clear she suspected that Paula had a hand in like the robbery of her mother's jewelry, and but it seemed like they had kind of mended the relationship slightly, at least towards the end.
Yeah.
So is it like she is refusing to believe that could be the case, and she just is leaving it as a suspicion, as opposed to like confronting Paula about it? Is it just going to be something
just
left
the
unsaid
rich and titled?
and
She just doesn't give a fuck about the jewelry and the
But it's not about the jewelry at that point for her. It's about like Paula, like,
but
putting
that's
her
what
parents in danger.
But she probably sees it more as like I don't care about these material objects, like whatever, if it costs a lot of money. She's probably not reading into the fact that like, yeah, you put people I care about in a position to be hurt or worse.
Yeah, I mean, from Paula's perspective too, though, I doubt she's gonna want to like continue once they get home or whatever. After she did that, does she really? That's kind of saying everything about her allegiance to Olivia, right? Like, if you're willing to do that, you're probably gonna want to distance yourself from that person after.
Yeah,
vacation.
Probably. But like we mentioned, this is not black and white relationship.
I think at the end of the day, I think Olivia was more redeeming than Paula. Like, despite Paula's disdain for her privilege and like how she's just like her mother and like a product of privilege.
I don't see Paula being redeeming at all.
No,
I don't. She's a criminal.
But she was like I think she thought she was like
the victim.
Yeah. Or at least like trying to protect the victim and like a defender of what's right and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're the most,
which is fucking insane,
bitch there is.
Yeah. She set up somebody else to take the fall for a crime that she organized.
And that she probably was like getting off on in some way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she was like
got some satisfaction out of watching the Mossbachers be wronged.
Yeah, acting vicariously through Kai, kind of something that she couldn't do because she was too close to them, but like especially the conversation she'd had with them that week. Like there was one conversation at breakfast I'm thinking of specifically where like they're talking about privilege and like colonialism and white status and stuff like that, and being very self-aware with that too of their like status in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely just leaves a sour taste in Paula's mouth. Obviously, like she fucking hates these people at her core. So yeah, it's like her way to get back at these rich white fucks without actually doing anything and like having someone else take the fall for it.
Yeah.
Scummy behavior.
Big time scummy. Manipulating and real piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, like, I mean, having intimate relations with them throughout that too, like that fueled the manipulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it probably was an impact in why he chose to go through with it.
Yeah.
Because he felt some sense of closeness and connection with this girl, and like, yeah, if she's telling me to do this, like, she must have good reason to, and like, I should listen to her. Yeah. And then she just tosses the necklace or bracelet or whatever he gave her, like, as they're leaving. I'll just get rid of this. The evidence that I had any relationship with him.
Yeah.
The guy that just got arrested for.
And it's like that she's so upset about. She's losing this connection, or like she's having to get rid of this symbol, and it's like, it's your fucking fault. You fucking did. The guy's gonna go to fucking jail in Hawaii, which I don't know what that fucking looks like. It's probably not great.
Could be worse places, I guess.
Well, it's probably not Guantanamo Bay, but it's still prison.
Yeah. No, yeah, I understand what you're saying. She's like looking longingly. There's like a tear rolling down her face or something. It's like, no.
It's like, oh, I'm never going to see him again. It's like, yeah, because he's in fucking jail for the rest of his life.
Yeah, no, she might have been the worst of them.
I think she was the worst in like a very unassuming way.
That's the thing. Like, it's easy to say that Shane was the worst because he was just like
overtly hated.
He made your blood boil with some of the things he said.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Paula, in terms of just like
consequence.
Yeah. And being everything that she hates, like representing, like her actions represent everything that she hates.
Mm-hmm. So let's jump a little more into the, less overt parts of the series, I guess, the less direct in your face stuff, the more, we mentioned the music earlier, but the more technical parts of cinematography and
the structuring of the season kind of.
Mm-hmm. And I do like just to touch on the music a little more, just to glaze the composer back, because an unreal score, like so gripping, and
it was very captivating.
Yeah. And very simple, too. Well, maybe not simple. Maybe simple is not a fair way to put it, because there were some weird instruments, and we mentioned the yodeling and stuff, too. And it was very off the mark, but worked really well.
I thought it was great for the setting, too. Like Hawaii, a kind of like I don't know, like tribal or something
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it. But very like upbeat for a show where there's a lot brewing under the surface, but I guess that's representative of like the White Lotus being this beautiful location with all these amenities, but it's like
It's just like a facade.
Piece of shit individuals who are staying there, kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought, yeah, I mean, catchy too, which is obviously important. But I do like a show that doesn't really have any like famous songs or like well-known songs in it, and it's more just like the non-lyrical score that weaves throughout. I feel like it adds
like a distinction. There's a uniqueness to the thing.
Yeah, and there's like highs and lows. Like it follows the story, kind of, right? Like when there's tension brewing in a scene, then like the music makes you feel tense or trapped or.
Yeah, it's representative of the setting you're in, or maybe the setting's the wrong word, but the situation or the dynamic that you're looking at.
Yeah, I think it's really integral to. It's really closely intertwined with like the sequences in the show, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, kudos to the composer on that one, because it was great. It fit the theme of the show very well. Helped enhance it. And like some good bits of like, whenever it like ramps up in volume and then comes back down and it's just like kind of slightly brewing underneath and allowing kind of silence to breathe a little bit too, and the dialogue to shine. Yeah, no, I thought the music was really well done.
And it's shot interestingly, maybe is the only way I can really put it, but just not afraid to cut off the like awkward silences and like to leave a scene mostly without dialogue. You know what I mean? Like there's more focus on the camera work and like the cinematography than there is the dialogue in a lot of situations, which I guess kind of adds to what we were saying about how the subtext adds so much more to the story than would be there otherwise. And the shots are very representative of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it would like it allows kind of those things left unsaid, like we were saying earlier, to breathe a little bit more. And like,
it gives you some time to reconcile with that or think about what that means, as opposed to just cutting on to the next scene or like picking up with somebody else's story that you're like, oh yeah, shit, that area, like I gotta move on here to the Mossbachers or whatever else is going on.
Yeah. And like juxtaposing this tension between characters with these beautiful like Hawaii ocean views and palm trees and big massive sprawling pools with bars, and no, it was very compelling the way they shot it, for sure, given the context of the relationships. Despite everything we said about like the privilege and entitlement and the beautiful nature of the White Lotus and this VIP resort and how it's the top 1%. It's funny how quickly that facade kind of comes crumbling down. Like in the little, especially just in episode 1, in the little interactions with some characters, they all want something that they don't really end up getting. Like there's immediate roadblocks to them getting what they want. Like with Belinda, she wants that massage right away. They're not able to accommodate, but Belinda, being Belinda, does anyways in a different way. Like Shane, it's the pineapple suite right away. Like that starts up and he goes down that road. Steve Zahn or Mark is looking for like shit to do around the resort. And everything he suggests is like, nah, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. Armand is like, the ocean swells is preventing them from doing anything but snorkeling. Yeah. Nicole was complaining about like the toughness of her lobster or something in the first episode. Like they're all like, there's a
problem.
Yeah, like it's a beautiful, where we arrive at this beautiful resort and think this is going to be hunky dory with all these rich people throwing money around and just kicking up their feet and relaxing and stuff. But immediately there's like, we see that, there's going to be some issues here. And it all comes to a head very quick, I guess, in terms of like the bigger problems, like Mark's midlife crisis or existential crisis, hearing the news about his father and stuff, and Shane's, escalating rift bout between him and Armand and Olivia and Paula, like we discussed. And then Shane and Rachel, and like it's just, they don't waste any time with, yes, we're in this beautiful resort in Hawaii and these are lots of rich people who are entitled and privileged and expecting like this beautiful stay, but before we see the big stuff that these characters are going to grapple with, it's just like these little like, no, there's these issues, there's these issues, and they don't deal with those issues well, I guess, as rich people wouldn't when it comes to petty problems.
Yeah, no, it's very characteristic of who they are, or most of them anyway. It's like we were talking about with the characters just being the archetype of that character. It's perfectly representative of that notion. And in such like an easily remedied way too. Like they're all upset about something that's so trivial. You know what I mean? Like Shane is upset about the marginal difference in luxury, I guess, between the two suites. Like there's no he doesn't have his fucking plunge pool. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Goddamn plunge pool. No, he doesn't have a plunge pool, but he does have a big ass fucking pool out in the courtyard, and he's got a whole ocean he can fucking swim in. But yeah, and the other ones too. More at the beginning, but Quinn with his screens and stuff too, and getting his Switch all wet. It's like, dude, you're in fucking paradise. Like, you shouldn't have brought the Switch in the first place. What are you doing? But obviously it's nice to see how that one, comes around full circle, or not full circle, but it does a complete 180, and he's kind of come to reject that. But yeah, it's always the smallest thing with them. It's always the most trivial, the most like just get over it thing.
Yeah, I think if anything, Quinn probably dealt with the biggest like rejection of social norms, just like abandoning life to go paddle with these native
Samoans. Yeah,
it's just like a crazy thing, but I'm like, it's insane that he actually committed to doing that, but it's really reflective of like, he just needed some exposure therapy or something. Just get away from the screens and open your eyes a little and realize that there's more to life out there. And he really does commit to that mentality. And it's, that's less petty than a lot of the other characters' issues, like you were saying. But I mean, like, Mark's existential crisis is fairly justified too. It's pretty.
I didn't even want to mention Mark because that's like a big deal. Like,
it's pretty.
Shit really came crashing down.
It's a bomb being dropped on you for sure.
Yeah.
He like doubts his
entire existence,
and masculinity, and who he is, and
everything he thought he knew about the people closest to him,
and he's at a weird like convergence in his life of like his wife seemingly doesn't really respect him as a man. His kids are at a point in their life where like they don't really need him. Professionally, it doesn't seem like he's like that fulfilled. So he's just like a lost soul after hearing the news of his dad. Like,
kind of
a crippled,
just sends him off the deep end for sure.
Turns him back into a monkey. As we see him aping around in the hotel room that one night, banging on his chest.
Oh god. And I'm sure his awkward conversation, I don't even know how to describe that conversation with Quinn in the pool, gave Quinn some perspective on making the decision he did, right?
I would say so, yeah. He's like
like as much as awkward and uncomfortable and horrific that conversation was, and how that is written all over Quinn's face, like it must have given him something. He must have taken something away from that led to his decision to stay behind and kind of abandon his family.
Probably like I gotta figure my shit out so that I don't
maybe that's all it
become
was.
my dad here, because this is alarming.
Oh.
Especially the conversation. Well, that whole like him spiraling out of control there was some of the conversations he had were just hilarious.
Oh, it's Steve Zahn is the fucking man, yeah.
With Quinn, like you said, and with Armand too at the hotel bar there, it was just cracking up.
That's so good.
But yeah, I mean, just a guy looking for some sense of self, I guess.
Yeah.
At that
just
point.
lost. Had no direction.
Yeah, so his redemption, reclaiming his masculinity, I guess, by taking down Kai later on, is like probably fuels him back up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely made a big. I mean, we see it made a big impact in the relationship between him and Nicole, but that obviously made a huge impact personally. And
yeah, personally, his kids too. Like, I'm pretty sure they vocalize like how they're like impressed and like, you know, confidence restored in their dad type of thing, or like this guy's, you know, put himself on the line to protect us. Yeah. But yeah, that's what, like, you know, that's what he gets out of it in the end. It's just like this rich, white, entitled guy who's struggling with his masculinity gains some confidence in that regard at the end of the season. Like, that's such like a... Should we care? Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah, it's not... there's definitely bigger problems out there than that. But that, I guess that's what's nice
Kai
about...
is rotten in a cell because he got fucking swindled by a witch.
But I guess that's what's nice about, like, the anthology is we don't really have to care about the world, the outside world around these characters, because we're never gonna live in... I mean, I feel like the White Lotus, or I guess it definitely takes place in the same universe throughout the whole seasons, but yeah, even still, like, because we're not revisiting those characters, obviously... exception of Tanya and I'm sure some other little things here and there, but it doesn't really... we're almost allowed to care more about this trivial shit as the viewer because there's no like larger implications of what this means. Like it's not like some political thriller or something that like the decisions they're making have impacts on, you know, the world around them and the public and, you know, their future entanglements with people. This is very much just like this is who they are at the beginning of the season. This is who they are at the end of the season. Take out of that what you will.
Yeah,
there's nothing more to it than that. Yeah, sure, like but there's nothing more. There's nothing larger looming outside of that that you have to concern yourself with.
No, I'm just thankful that Quinn was smart enough to get away from it all, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really diamond in the rough there.
Mm-hmm. As we kind of get closer towards the end of our discussion here, I do want to unpack Rachel a little bit more as an individual, because I know we talked about her relationship with Shane, but I just want to talk about, I guess, what fueled that a little bit more. Like, she seems like she's going in a sensible direction early on in the season, and then things sort of come crumbling down for her. Like, let's just unpack her motivations as a character a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we talked about their marriage happening quickly, and it was probably more of a sense of infatuation that drove it all, I guess, at first. And she was probably in a tight spot for money, so that wasn't like a bad thing necessarily. Maybe she wasn't like, do you think she was reflecting on that as being like an issue before what happened on vacation? Did she see that as being a roadblock to their relationship?
Yeah, probably not. It's probably that she hadn't considered that, like, because it in such a short time span, like she hadn't considered the implications
of like her being a trophy wife and her just
yes,
being
yeah,
like
of what it means to marry this guy who
what
just
she
has a bunch of
represents
money
to him.
and yeah. It's probably just the fact, yeah, she hadn't actually considered that until they got married. And then, this contract with her job and this opportunity that she wants to take while they're on vacation. And Shane's reaction to that was probably the first real, like, oh, this guy, like, this isn't two partners in a relationship, going through life together. This is like, oh, I'm secondary to whatever is going on. And
I'm a symbol for his life.
She's a part of his life,
accessory,
not an individual in her own.
Yeah,
or that's like the feeling that I'm sure she's coming to grips with at that point.
Yeah, that's got to be like. Oof. I can imagine that just feeling like so doomed and claustrophobic. They do, like Mike White did a good job of portraying that, and Alexandra Daddario did a good job of conveying that type of emotion and feeling like of trapped and like, what did I just do? Like, what mistake have I just made that potentially can't be undone?
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand like feeling like it took a lot of courage for her to make the decision to be like, hey, like, this isn't what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to talk about like why is because Shane conveys this type of like he's not like aggressive in the sense that he's gonna become like physical and stuff, but what makes her what's that sense about him that makes her so like reticent to want to bring that up at first? Because like there's something about him that's like this quiet rage. Or do you think he's capable of like, if she really pissed him off, would he just like bury her type of thing, make it so that she could never be successful professionally, and like would he take it upon himself to
ruin her life
eventually?
Probably.
He seems like the petty type of guy that would do that.
Yeah.
So is that like making her resistant too? Like she's even more trapped because of that? Not only like, oh, we signed vows and divorce and this is messy. We just got married and I'm on my honeymoon and already like, no, this isn't going to work. Like, is there like a more like this guy could ruin me too if I don't go along with it now?
Yeah. Short answer, yes. I think he clearly has a position of power and influence, and he's got more money than he knows what to do with. And
do you think that's why she eventually makes the decision to go back to him?
Yeah, because she like, what the fuck else am I gonna do? I'm pooched otherwise. Like, she already turned down that. She already doesn't have a job. Keep in mind by the end of that season, because she did turn down that contract or whatever, which she mentioned that she had already turned down a bunch of them when she was planning the wedding, and like this was the last straw for her. So clearly she doesn't have a job at this point. She doesn't have any. She probably doesn't have a place to live. I imagine she was living with him wherever the fuck they reside.
Yeah.
So yeah, like she's probably in a position that she literally has nothing without him, which is I'm sure was a terrifying realization. It's probably not something she had considered before, the rift had started to really form between them. But yeah, I'm sure that's where she got.
She's willing to make the ultimate, well, not the ultimate sacrifice, but sacrifice her happiness to.
Yeah, she's not willing to take the ultimate sacrifice, security, which would be leaving him, I guess. But yeah,
another representation of a character in which like you hope that they make the right choice and the sensible decision, but they don't. Well, she does, that's the thing, and then she goes back on it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. She does. She's almost like Gwen. She almost rises above her position, what we expect of her, what we think of her, but she doesn't. And it's not. I'm not. Let me preface. I'm not saying that's Belinda's fault, but of course, with Belinda giving the advice that she actually would have, like that she would actually, if she had any level of investment in Rachel's situation after the conversation they had, she would have given her the advice to not go back with him. But of course, because of Tanya, that's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to shift the blame from one person to another. I'm just trying to express that, like, these set of circumstances, everything we saw leading up to this moment, was so crucial in characters making the decisions that are very uncharacteristic of them.
Yeah, it all bleeds through
Mm-hmm.
into these secondary relationships. And no, I do agree. You have to wonder, like, if Belinda had said the right thing or said something that she internalized and was enough to solidify her decision to leave, then it could have ended up differently. But yeah, I think, I don't know, it says a lot about her character in the end, too, that she's, I don't know, sort of weak-willed, if that's not too harsh. Like,
I know what you mean.
She understood what it took to set her on the path of, like, I don't know, I hesitate to say more fulfilling life because it would be, like, more unpredictable, I guess. Like, you don't have the safety of the money and the security and stuff like that. But it's just totally meaningless the way I see it with staying with Shane.
Yeah.
So in my eyes, it just, like, says a lot about her character being, you know, just not having the strength to really go through with the decision she made.
Yeah, well, let's kind of cap off our discussion here with the final act of the season, really, or the final climax of the season, which is Armand's fate. Very, very unexpected, I will say, first of all. Because
unexpected in the way that he did it, not unexpected that it would happen, but
the process of it happening. The sequence of events leading up to it.
Yeah,
very unexpected. I was really on board with him going into the pineapple suite and fucking with Shane before I realized that he was gonna shit in his luggage, and then that was a little like, maybe we don't shit in his luggage.
But oh, I thought that was a great comeuppance for Shane.
I mean, it is funny as hell, but it's also like, what? That's what you're gonna shit in his luggage?
It's an odd choice.
Yeah,
it's an odd choice.
But yeah,
just been brewing up a steamy one with all the drugs he'd been taking, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, and then you see, then Shane comes in, and you know he's like, Armand's like, fuck, I gotta get the fuck out of here, and whatever, and you just, even still, up until that point, you don't expect that. Like, by this point, I've forgotten about the coffin, the human remains at the beginning, and like, I'm not expecting somebody to die, and I'm certainly not expecting somebody to die here. And then how it, just so, like, anticlimactically, I guess, how he dies. Like,
I mean, just a
mistake,
accident, kind of. Accident. Like, he's just turning the corner. It's just two
guys
this
going
noise of a possible intruder, and he's got the pineapple knife on hand there, and just out of extreme caution, I guess, he's rounding the corner with it, and it's just like them, the contact of them meeting and the sharpness of the knife, I guess, just slips it right into his abdomen. I really like the way they shot that, actually. Like, with the wall splitting them and then rounding the corner together. And just, like, the shock on both of their faces. Like, Shane was like, oh, fuck, like, what did I just do? And Armand is obviously, what just happened? I love the way it was shot. And the final moments of Armand, too. It's, like, this complicated sense of, like, you know, a guy who's aware that he's taking his last breaths or about to die, but like almost I got this sense of relief too, like he's leaving this bullshit behind, like this is the final time he's got to deal with fuckers like Shane.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that, you know, take me away to better things type of thing. Finally free.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a catharsis to it, as much as it's a tragic event.
Yeah. And doesn't really seem to take that big of a toll on Shane.
Doesn't really seem to care.
I mean, you know, you could theorize about how it affects him moving forward. Not that we'd know.
But he's clearly grappling more with his relationship with his wife than he is with taking somebody's life.
That's what I get. That yeah, he gets a very big sense of relief whenever Rachel shows up at the terminal there and decides to get back together with him. But no, I'd have to assume that would weigh on him, eat away at him. Like he killed a man accidentally, but like, yeah, that's got to be a lot. It could, I don't know. It's just for a character like him, it would be interesting to see a guy like that grappling with
the
murder.
consequences of that. Yeah.
Manslaughter. What would you classify that as?
Probably manslaughter. I mean, he definitely didn't get arrested, so it wasn't murder.
Yeah,
but probably manslaughter. I mean, hard to say, right? Because Armand was in his hotel room. He was an intruder.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
But yeah, anyways, even like a piece of shit like Shane that's gotta affect him in some way.
You'd hope so, anyway. Like, you hope that that's not just something he brushes off.
Can solve that one.
No. Well, no.
Pay for a good therapist, but
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, no, all in all, like, what are your thoughts if you could kind of sum it up into a sentence or two on White Lotus season 1?
Yeah, I mean, super fresh. Like, super refreshing show.
Freshy.
For the kind of, like, I mean, I know there's a lot of, like, trends cycle, right? Like, there's always the popular show out at one point, and the White Lotus has been that, obviously 3 seasons, has been that a couple of times now.
Yeah.
But there's something different about this one. There's no... I don't remember who it was that said it, but I remember somebody talking about how Netflix and these streaming services, when they're receiving pitches for shows and like when they're organizing these things, they're anticipating the viewer not really paying attention to the show. Like, they're expecting someone to be on and off their phone throughout the course of it, and they're planning for that when they're making stuff, which I feel like is contributing to the wanting quality of TV that's coming out these days. But the White Lotus was completely the antithesis of that. Like, it was required that you were watching almost every second of that show because of what we talked about, how it's all said in the subtext, and, you know, dialogue only gets you so far. So if you're relying on audio as a sense, like if you're relying on just your hearing, you're missing out on not only half the subtext or half the episode, you're missing out on 70-75% of it. Yeah, because it's so much more important to see than it is to hear.
All the micro expressions and body language and like that, all
the shots
plays
and the camera work and
yeah.
No, it's an audio visual medium, and the White Lotus takes advantage of the visual more than a lot of shows I've seen recently, or a lot of shows that have been coming out recently. Sorry, I should say like specific to streaming. But
yeah, beautifully put, and I totally agree. I think this was a gem in a sea of, you know, in the last 5 years or so, I haven't been like super impressed by many TV shows. But this one is on that list that did hook me for sure. Yeah, and I just chalk it up to definitely just the authenticity of the human nature, I guess, in it.
And like the commitment to the characters, like they're going with, these are not wishy-washy people that are making, a decision that's questionable because of a previous decision they made. It's their clear-cut personality and morals, and these are the people we're watching. Mm-hmm. Which, like we mentioned earlier, is perfect for an anthology. It's exactly what you need for an anthology.
No, agreed. Well said.
Well, are you with me on the tier list then? The White Lotus goes greatest of all time.
I am with you, sir.
Yeah.
That is no argument from me on that one.
Yeah. Season 1 for sure, anyway. Potentially, once I see the rest, I'll, maybe have a different opinion about the series as a whole, but I think talking about season 1 anyway, it's, greatest of all time.
I'm thinking of like stacking it up against Breaking Bad or something.
Whoa.
No, not in like I think it could compete with that. I'm thinking of even like if Breaking Bad is greatest of all time, which in my eyes is like no question.
Right.
White Lotus, I don't know. I might hesitate a little to put it in that category if I'm putting it with the likes of Breaking Bad. Like I think Breaking Bad is I would say it's on a tier above White Lotus.
Right.
So I might have to edge that down to outstanding, honestly.
That is a reasonable...
Taking nothing away from it, it's just when you think about it relative to other projects. Maybe that's not a good way of doing it, though. Greatest of all time in a vacuum, like...
I think if we're looking at this in a tier list, Breaking Bad would be the first position in the greatest of all time tier. But I think the White Lotus would still fit in a lower position on that same tier.
That's fair. I'll give that to you, yeah. Yeah, as long as we can distinguish that there's a proper priority.
There's an order to it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you that. I'd still put it like it definitely, drew me in and kept me there and really hooked me, and yeah, I enjoyed myself the whole way throughout. I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of filler like there is in a lot of shows these days.
Yep.
It was to the point, told its story. Yeah.
There you have it, folks. Fraternal Fanatics on the White Lotus.
First TV series, I think. But many more to come, so if there's any recommendations, I know we mentioned Breaking Bad. That's definitely on the docket eventually. But please, we'd love to hear your thoughts on other gems that you'd want us to check out and discuss.
Thanks for listening.